The room was silent, but the message was deafening. Behind closed doors, some of the world's most powerful leaders were making a decision that could reshape global security for decades. Not sanctions, not diplomacy, something far more dramatic. They were discussing whether Donald Trump, and potentially the United States under his leadership, could be frozen out of key military coordination among allies. For nearly 75 years, the backbone of Western defense has been NATO, the alliance created after World War II to ensure that an attack on one member would be treated as an attack on all. But now, whispers inside European capitals suggest an unprecedented scenario. What if the alliance could no longer rely on Washington? What if America's leadership itself became the uncertainty? In private meetings in Brussels, Berlin, and Paris, diplomats and military planners reportedly began discussing contingency plans, ways Europe might coordinate defense strategy without relying on U.S. leadership if political tensions spiral out of control. And the numbers tell a shocking story. The United States currently provides roughly 70% of NATO's total defense spending and supplies, the majority of its advanced intelligence, surveillance systems, and strategic airlift capabilities. Without Washington, the alliance's military structure would look dramatically different overnight. But the controversy doesn't stop there. Some analysts warn that a political clash between Washington and its allies could create the largest fracture in the Western alliance system since the Cold War. Others argue the situation is being exaggerated, and that military cooperation is far too deep to unravel. Still, the fact that such discussions are happening at all has set off alarm bells across strategic think tanks and defense ministries. Because if the alliance begins to fracture, even symbolically, the consequences could ripple far beyond Europe. Adversaries are watching closely. In Russia and China, analysts have long predicted that the greatest threat to Western power wouldn't be external conflict, but internal division. And if tensions continue rising, the question facing global leaders may no longer be hypothetical. It may become unavoidable. Could the world's most powerful military alliance really begin planning for a future without the United States at its center? Or is this the start of a geopolitical crisis no one is prepared for? Because what happens next could change the balance of power across the entire planet. To understand why tensions are rising, you have to look at the long-standing debate inside the alliance. For years, Donald Trump has criticized NATO members for what he calls free-riding on American military power. The numbers are often cited in this debate. NATO countries agreed to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. Yet for years, many members fell short of that target. At one point, only a handful of countries, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Greece, were meeting the goal. Trump repeatedly warned that if allies didn't increase spending, Washington might reconsider its commitments. Those statements shocked many leaders in Europe. Because NATO's credibility relies on absolute certainty that the United States would respond if a member state were attacked. If that guarantee becomes uncertain, even politically, it could change strategic calculations across the continent. And that uncertainty has triggered a wave of planning inside European defense ministries. Countries like Germany, France, and Poland have already begun dramatically increasing military spending. Germany alone announced a $100 billion defense modernization fund, one of the largest military investments in modern European history. Meanwhile, discussions about creating stronger European defense coordination have intensified inside the European Union. Some policymakers have floated ideas like independent European rapid reaction forces, joint weapons development programs, shared intelligence networks, a stronger European defense command structure. These ideas don't necessarily replace NATO, but they do raise an uncomfortable possibility. What if Europe starts building parallel military capabilities that could function without U.S. leadership? For many strategists, that possibility represents both an opportunity and a risk. On one hand, stronger European militaries could reinforce collective security. On the other hand, parallel command structures could fragment alliance decision-making during a crisis. And history shows that military alliances rarely collapse overnight. Instead, they weaken slowly, through mistrust, political disagreements, and strategic divergence. The question now facing defense planners is simple but profound. Are these new discussions simply prudent contingency planning, or are they the early signs of something much bigger, a shift in the entire architecture of global power? At the center of this debate lies a hard military reality. The United States is not just another member of NATO, it is the operational backbone of the alliance. American forces provide key capabilities that few other countries can replicate at scale. These include strategic nuclear deterrence, global satellite reconnaissance, long-range airlift and logistics, advanced missile defense. Integrated battlefield intelligence. For example, NATO's nuclear deterrence relies heavily on the U.S. nuclear umbrella, supported by American strategic forces and nuclear-capable aircraft stationed across Europe. Without that umbrella, the entire deterrence structure would have to be re-engineered. Another critical capability is intelligence. U.S. surveillance systems, ranging from satellites to airborne reconnaissance aircraft, feed massive amounts of data into NATO's command networks. That intelligence allows Allied forces to track missile launches, troop movements, and emerging threats in real time. If those systems were removed from the alliance structure, the information gap would be enormous. Military logistics also present a major challenge. The United States operates the largest fleet of strategic transport aircraft and naval supply vessels in the world, enabling rapid deployment of troops and equipment across continents. European militaries are improving these capabilities, but analysts say it could take years, if not decades, to fully close the gap. And that leads to the central strategic dilemma. Even if Europe wanted to operate independently from Washington, could it realistically do so in the near future? Some experts believe the answer is no. Others argue the process has already begun. Major European arms manufacturers are expanding joint programs to produce advanced fighter jets, missile systems, and next-generation drones. Meanwhile, new command coordination mechanisms are being tested within the European defense framework. But building military capability is only half the equation. The other half is political trust. And if political disagreements continue escalating, the strategic cohesion that has defined Western defense for generations could face its most serious test yet. If tensions inside the Western alliance grow deeper, the ripple effects could extend far beyond Europe. For decades, NATO has functioned not only as a military alliance, but as a symbol of political unity among democracies. That unity has shaped global deterrence calculations, but any sign of division immediately attracts attention from geopolitical rivals. In Moscow, officials have long argued that NATO expansion threatens Russian security interests. Analysts close to the Kremlin often claim that internal disagreements within the alliance demonstrate that Western unity is fragile. Meanwhile, strategic planners in China closely monitor alliance dynamics as they assess the future balance of power in Asia and Europe. If the transatlantic partnership weakens, Beijing could see opportunities to expand its influence across Eurasia. Defense analysts at institutions like the RAND Corporation and the International Institute for Strategic Studies have repeatedly warned that alliance cohesion is one of the West's greatest strategic advantages. And once that cohesion begins to erode, rebuilding it can be extremely difficult. Beyond geopolitics, there are economic consequences as well. Defense industries across the United States and Europe are deeply interconnected. Joint weapons programs involve billions of dollars in contracts and thousands of companies across multiple countries. If political disputes disrupt that cooperation, supply chains could be affected and development timelines could slow dramatically. Financial markets also react quickly to geopolitical uncertainty. When alliances appear unstable, investors often shift toward safer assets, and energy markets can become volatile. In other words, the debate about alliance unity isn't just a diplomatic issue. It touches military deterrence, economic stability, and the global balance of power. And if tensions continue to rise, the consequences may extend far beyond the political headlines. Strategists often describe alliances as security ecosystems. They rely on trust, shared planning, and predictable commitments. When those elements weaken, the entire system can begin to wobble. Imagine a crisis scenario, a sudden escalation somewhere along NATO's eastern frontier. Military commanders request rapid coordination among Allied forces, but political disagreements delay decision-making. Even a few hours of hesitation could dramatically change the outcome of a conflict. This is why alliance credibility is considered a core element of deterrence. Adversaries must believe that allied countries will respond immediately and collectively to any threat. If they begin to doubt that unity, the risk of miscalculation increases. Some defense planners worry about a cascading effect. First, uncertainty over commitments, then slower coordination. Then rival powers testing the alliance with gray zone operations, cyber attacks, maritime provocations, or hybrid warfare tactics. Over time, these pressures could stress the alliance framework in ways it was never designed to handle. That's why discussions about contingency planning are so sensitive. Even acknowledging the possibility of division can send signals to adversaries, but ignoring potential risks can be just as dangerous. Military planners often prepare for scenarios they hope will never happen. And in today's rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape, those scenarios are becoming increasingly complex. So where does this leave the future of the Western alliance? Despite the dramatic headlines, most defense experts agree on one key point. NATO remains one of the most powerful military coalitions in history. Its combined forces include more than 3 million personnel, thousands of advanced aircraft, and the most sophisticated defense technologies on the planet. The alliance has adapted through multiple crises since its creation in 1949, from the Cold War standoff with the Soviet Union to the wars in Afghanistan and the evolving security challenges of the 21st century. Each time, disagreements among member states emerged, yet the alliance endured. Still, today's tensions highlight an important shift in global geopolitics. Power is becoming more multipolar. New technologies, from cyber warfare to artificial intelligence, are transforming military strategy. And political dynamics inside democratic societies are changing how alliances function. In that environment, even long-standing partnerships must constantly adapt. Some experts argue that increased European defense spending could actually strengthen the alliance by sharing more of the burden. Others worry that parallel defense structures might gradually dilute NATO's unified command system. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. The coming years may see a more complex alliance structure, one where European capabilities expand while the United States remains the central strategic anchor. But one thing is certain. The debate over burden sharing, political trust, and strategic independence is far from over, and how leaders manage those disagreements could shape global security for decades. Because alliances are not just military arrangements. They are built on shared interests, shared risks, and shared commitments. If those foundations remain strong, the alliance can evolve and endure. But if trust erodes, even the most powerful military coalition in history could face unprecedented challenges. And in a world where geopolitical competition is intensifying, the stakes could not be higher.